Mog današnjeg gosta upoznao sam prošle godine. Bio mi je predavač na Executive MBA programu SM škole za strateške finansije. Salvatore Kantale predaje strateške finansije u Lozani na IMD školi, jednoj od najpoznatijih i najboljih biznis škola na svetu. Šta je posebno kod mog večerašnjeg gosta, profesora Salvatorea Kantalea? Upravo njegov pogled na finansije, a to je da približi liderima, ljudima koji vode biznise i organizacije, šta zapravo mogu da pročitaju kroz finansije, na koji način mogu da menjaju svoje organizacije i da se pripreme na promene. Profesor Salvatore zapravo ne proučava samo strateške finansije. On istražuje krize i kako od kriza da napravite mogućnosti i nove potencijale. Ono što je posebno zanimljivo, Salvatore se bavi ovim istraživanjima još od velike krize i berzanskog kraha 2008. godine, pa sve onim krizama koje su usledile na globalnom planu. Covida, pandemije, ratova, pa i evo ovih globalnih i geostrateških pomeranja koje proživljavamo sada u današnjem svetu. I to je ono što profesora Salvatore čini posebnim i on jeste zapravo u svim ovim godinama savjetovao vodeće ljude najvećih svetskih korporacija, najvećih banaka i kompanija kako da reaguju na krize, kako da se na krize pripremaju, kako da žive sa krizama, ali pre svega kako da od krize naprave nove mogućnosti. Ne samo da ih prežive, nego da stvore zaista novu vrednost. Ajde da čujemo šta Salvatore želi danas da nam kaže. First of all, Salvatore, thank you very much for being with us and agreeing to be in our, let's say, small TV show. And maybe just for the introduction, I would like to say how we met actually. And we met, you were a professor coming to the SM school where I was a student on the Executive MBA program. And I saw it as an opportunity to see really world-class professors from all around the world. And you are teaching in Lausanne and the IMD Business School, one of the best in the world, teaching strategy finances. And I was like, you know, there is a guy coming teaching finances. I was like, oh God, it will be boring.
I get this a lot. I get this a lot of time. Yes.
Exactly the finance guy. And then I heard you, and you started your talk and your lecture with so much different angle from the normal perspective. How do you expect to be taught finance? And you teach finance through really strategic thinking, decision making. What is actually behind the numbers, and what is actually behind all these dry theories of the financial ratios in the concepts of business models, in the concepts of products. Let's talk about something that maybe it's very interesting. How much we apply some financial rules that we actually learned many years in the past, year by year, every generation is learning them, and how are they still applicable or not? And where is this, how to actually recognize the point where actually the rules that we are implicating are outdated?
Are not valid anymore. I think it's a very good point, and it's this is something that is changing faster and faster. I had the impression that cycles in economics and finance are becoming quicker and quicker. Historically, we had a little bit of a small financial crisis every 7 years. But this is the new world. Before it was like 15 years, then it became 7 years. And now we have crises which are happening every 3 years, every 2 years and a half. And some of these crises are actually happening at the same time, which is what we call polycrisis, right? Being able to deal with one or more crises at the same time. I always think that the principles are the same. I used to take these classes when I was at Harvard for a second, and I took class at MIT. And there was this professor that says, when I asked, professor, that was like Myers was like a great professor in finance, was like, professor, when I come back to the US, because I thought that I would come back to the US, I would say, can I come and take these classes again? He told me, of course you can. And I would laugh and say, well, it's going to be boring, right? Because I heard this story once again. He told me, no. The problems are going to be the same. The answers are going to be different, which is exactly what we are seeing over here. And the point is, like, we are trying to apply the same logic, all right? The same set of logic, a same framework and solutions to problems that are new problems. And this is basically not working. And I think there's going to be a moment in which, I think that a good sailor, I was born in Sicily, was surrounded, is an island surrounded by sea. And when I was talking to the marina and talking on who is a good sailor, I think a good sailor is someone, a good fisherman is someone who can go out and then he looks at the weather and say, today there's something different. And and he would actually come back home and be safe. And this is the thing, like, what we have to aim as finance professional, but not just a finance professional, more generally as business professional, being able to look at the weather, look at the economics, at the environment, getting those low-level noise and signals that I understand today is a little bit different. I'm going to go back and I'm going to be starting once again.
That is exactly about the questions and answers, and that is what I kept as one of the keystones after your lecture and reading more about your work, is basically that if you have in front of you some financial statements of P&L or whatever you have from the numbers, that basically you don't go and interpret it as some kind of fixed interpretation of some number, but basically to ask what is behind, what actually happened on the market. Because if you see, we had 2008 with the big crisis, and then we had a pandemic after that, and then the pandemic totally reshaped the supply chains, which had to be also, let's say, mirrored in some kind of numbers. And we interpreted the numbers as in the world before, and that was a crucial mistake, basically. So this is how do you teach, or how do you consult people from big companies, but also also students, how to look into the numbers and to see what is actually happening in the real world?
So let me tell you what is my approach to this. My approach to this is, first of all, this idea has been hyper connected with the world in which the company and the economic situation are basically would gravitate. So this idea is like the completely connection with the rest of the ecosystem. I think this is important. I mean, the ability to look, and I'm not really talking just about finance, but in business altogether, to be able to actually look at an entity and being able to actually have statements about the health and non-financial or just business health of the business, I think is a little bit antiquated, right? It's a little bit, this is an interpretation of this world. You see it like that particular dot, which is the company, with respect to a much larger ecosystem, much more important ecosystem. This idea also being like, hyper connected with the low signals. There's things that happening, and sometimes I ask, many months later, how did that happen? And I could not see it. I remember with respect to the pandemic, sometimes I do talk about the pandemic. And in December, maybe November 2019, before the pandemic that had like obviously a huge impact, not only on the economy, but also me as a person, and a lot of people that unfortunately passed away because of the pandemic. There was a moment in which there were images of some places in Wuhan, in the part where the pandemic allegedly started, and the Chinese government basically avoided people by going to Wuhan, which is a large place. It's as big as Germany. So and then they built a hospital in 10 days. And at that time, we were laughing. How on earth do you want to build a hospital in 10 days? And then ex post, we cannot understand. I think there was like what I call low signals, something that we should have interpreted in some other ways. Of course, ex post is easy to say, well, they were very scared, they were in emergency, and they tried to. But at that time, from outside that thing, we just did not think well enough. And this is what special economic leaders have, special business leaders have, this ability to read the low signals.
And this is especially what you're also talking about, is that building up this kind of sensors for these low signals, and dealing with the, let's say, it very low amount of data. You have to build some kind of decision or to read out something that will happen in the future. Financial statements are a very good place to look in.
Probably not. Probably not. This is just one piece of the puzzle, but I don't think you're going to get. Well, you get something, and I think what we did in class, I'm not defending my work in class, is about financial literacy, and we do it very well. But I think we actually look also outside, understanding business models, understanding ecosystem, and this is why I think we got so much. And I say we because I think I learned from you as much as I hope that you learn from me, because you gave, and the participant gave like a completely different way of thinking with respect to the business ecosystem. If you actually look at, in Switzerland where I work, I'm always confronted with new startup people that ask me to give feedback and stuff. This is startup, which is basically happening in Switzerland, which is about how to look at behavior of people working at the company. It's not looking at information about the company in the financial statements, in the press release, but fundamentally look at what are people in the executive team reading, who do they meet, when do they meet, and to have a completely, and using AI, and using image recognition and all this stuff in order to understand what they are working before they actually know they are working on that. And this is the kind of low signal that we are trying to understand and try to interpret.
So what I also hear here is this contextualization, really putting in the right context amount of data, or let's say signals that one can receive. And this is a very good advice, I think, also for the people from building up the businesses today, or new businesses, is how actually to look in the ecosystem at all, and how to look to the stakeholders, not as a traditional, I have a bank and they will finance me, and I have a stakeholder or whatever, equity partner, whatever, but to look in really what is behind their decision making.
Absolutely, but also, picking up on this, I think that this is really a skill set. This is a skill set. This is something that you build, something that you own, something that you learn, something that you work on that. This is not something that happens by itself. Ability to really scan for low signals, scan from information. It's something that you really train yourself, and this is something that as a leader of the future, this is something that should be absolutely under your radar.
This is the huge topic that actually I'm really happy to have you and to discuss it with you. So let's start. We started with a big crash, 2008, totally reshaping the investment banking, totally reshaping the financial markets, totally reshaping the national banks and dealing with the financial markets, and actually money as a concept, also in the States and in macroeconomics. And after that, the pandemic, that totally reshaped how the business operations worked on the more macro level, and building totally new business models out of emergency. And after that, the geopolitical turmoils and tactical, tectonical changes that we had with Russia, with Ukraine, with war in Israel and Palestine, then reshaping an energy crisis, and also, so it's actually more like our mindset is built on there is a normal, and then there is a crisis, and then we are back to normal, and there is another crisis. But is it the right mindset? I think it's like if we take the bird view and look all of this, what happened in the last 10 years, not more than this, there is no normal, or there is a new normal.
Well, the new normal is not normal. It's definitely not the old normal. I absolutely agree with you. I think we are going in these different stages of new transformations, And I think, like, I think I mentioned today in class that, once there was this great leader that said, had a town hall with the people of his company, and one person actually asked, "Sir, what is going to be happening when we are done with this transformation?" And the CEO, without thinking, said, "Well, when we're going to be done with this transformation, we're going to be ready for the next one." And I think it's exactly where we are. We had this period that we talk, we will really talk about digital transformation. It looked like the name of the game was digital transformation. And when companies actually adopted digital transformation, then what happens? Now we have AI. So companies go from one S-curve to the next S-curve. And not just company, but also as individual, the more we can get adapted of really shifting paradigm continuously, then the more we're going to be up for, like, really the life that we're going to be having in the future. So this normal is concept that probably does not exist anymore. We're going to have completely new normal that basically means that we're going to be always in a state of transformation. Technology is helping. Scarcity helps, right? Scarcity helps in this jump in different S-curves. And one of these is digital, then it's going to be environmental. We will get there eventually. And then once again, we're going to be shifting our way of thinking on that.
That brings me a very, very important topic. If we talk about changes and let's say the rapid speed or acceleration of the changes, more or less, if it's energy crisis, we lived it before. Geopolitical also, we had a Cold War before. We know somehow how to deal with it, but then came the technological transformation with the AI and the new technologies and the deep tech, which is now brought the changes to the level of the weeks that are totally different worlds. So you are living in one world this week, and the next week you will live in a totally different world. This kind of uncertainty in building businesses is something that I think what you are talking about, this is the skill and this is a skill set. It's really challenging to deal with. So what do you think about, I wanted your comment or your thoughts, what is totally different now from even 2 years ago? That you have, for example, new businesses, new startups with new ideas, with technological solutions. 2 years ago, they needed a lot of money, funding money, to find the VCs, to invest, to be able to produce, to come to the customer and to have some kind of proof of concept. Now you have the companies all around the world with so affordable technologies, with technologies so massively changed that they can afford it, be it in Laos, wherever in the world, in Africa or in Europe, having the technology, building the solution, having the customers, and not even raised $1 from some investors. How this changed the reality we are living in?
This changed everything, right? This changed everything. Like, we're used to think that, the best place to start a business was like in Silicon Valley, and you go there, is the typical way. And we try to export Silicon Valleys like everywhere. Sometimes the concept, sometimes it worked. Most of the time didn't work very well. I think that model is a little bit over, and not because of lack of talent, it's just the business model, the ecosystem which is behind that. Now we have much more things happening in Estonia, happening in Israel, happening in Vietnam, as you said before, right? With a completely different stories, with a completely different ecosystem. But once again, we have to learn how to use it. We have to learn how to scale it. And once again, this is a skill set, and this is a skill set that needs always to be there and to be owned in order to understand what is going to be the next stuff. Without technology, all this would not have been possible, so to speak. But at the end of the day, it's people, It's people and how you train the people and how they think about new business stories.
This is interesting what we also mentioned about environmental and about ecosystems. A lot of things when we talk also, if we talk traditional companies and then we have financial statements or whatever, reportings, talking about ESG, like environmental, social governance, and everybody was like, okay, this is some kind of stuff that we need to do, and this is very nice, and It is like compliance with the
Sure.
world we are living, but not thinking as actually that ESG is actually this is an rapidly changing environment,
Absolutely.
rapidly changing societies, and kind of how we government and how we actually control these circumstances. That is so much incorporated now in the business, and that are still on the policy level. The ESG is treated like some kind of, we have to introduce it because the government says we have to introduce it.
So first of all, even ESG, right? If you think about ESG 2 or 3 years ago, was a big thing. Today is almost a bad word, right? We have to talk more about sustainability. I mean, the narrative is completely different. Also, in that level, what was hot today 2 years ago is not in line today. I think that with respect to this, I think sooner or later it's going to come to our plate. So this is something that we have to think. The opportunities are enormous. If you put together sustainability, digital transformation, ability to work at scale, this is where I think in this space, in this intersection of these different things, they're gonna have what is called a gigacorn. We know what is a unicorn, companies which has a valuation more than 1 billion, but we're gonna have this gigacorn, which is companies with valuation more than 1 billion that are able to clean up the environment for more than 100 or 1 million or 100 million tons of CO2 emission. If you put this together, this is gonna be really the next step of the engine of growth that we're gonna have in the future.
And this is really what you are talking about, having the crisis, having the enormous uncertainty, and building the new value out of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is something.
And this is the idea, and this is the next iteration, so to speak, of what we know and what we're thinking about innovation and growth and investments and opportunities. Not just about investment, opportunities for the world to go in the right direction.
And what do you think about? We talked about innovation, and we talked about concepts of growth. You are also you're in contact with a lot of big companies, corporations, let's say multi or international corporations. And on the one side, and on the other side, a very dynamic community of young people and young innovators, being as a professor and in different schools all around the world, a big, good one. How do you see this world, two worlds coming together? Are they really working on, let's say, being easier in matching? And are the big ones a little bit, rethinking their concepts?
It's not an easy mix to put together, right? There are people pretty much with me, 60 years old male with white hair, and eventually we're going to be phasing out, and this is a good thing. And then we have new instances, we have new ideas coming from people that have a completely different view of the world. So I think that some solution is going to be done somewhere in the middle. But I think, so there are a couple of hypotheses, right? It's very possible that, my generation is going to fade out. Just time is going to make it happen. And there's another idea that I like a little bit less, which is younger people sooner or later are going to become older and a little bit more like me, a little bit more like me, right? So it depends how this is gonna play out. It's not easy, but they're asking for different things. They're willing to bring a different set of skills on the table and have a completely different way of looking at the world. And this is just a breath of fresh air that is getting into the boardroom.
And being the part of academia, how do you think that, we have to transform also how we train the people or how we train ourselves, despite of the concepts of how we have the schools positioned now and what is the role and how they are constructed, to be able to build up on this new skill set.
I completely agree, and I don't think at academia, and this is a little bit of mea culpa, we did a very good job in that. All right, a couple of years ago, changing topic, but on the same topic, we ran an experiment. It was not an experiment, it was a questionnaire for a large insurance company in France, okay? Not the largest, but a large insurance company in France. We asked the employees, do you think that what an insurance company will change in the next 5 years. And 95% of the people say yes. 95% of the company working in this company says yes, we're going to have a completely different company to run. And then the second question was, but what about your job? Will your job change? And 95% of the people say, no, my job is going to be exactly the same.
Perspective point.
It's a completely different point of view. And I think in academia we are doing a little bit of this, right? Will the world change? Yes, we completely agree. And
will our university change?
Will our university change? No, my job is going to be the same. And this is not the right way to approach it. Things need to change. We really have to be able to actually be a little bit more sensitive, what people care. But this is a difficult transformation to be done. This is a difficult transformation. But you hear students all over the world basically asking for different institutions, for different learnings, for different things that we teach in class. So eventually this is going to be coming. Not that quick, but it's going to be coming. So I have a great hope on this. I have a great hope on this, absolutely.
Yeah. And coming up to the students and in different parts of the world, it's you are actually, I can now more or less tell that you are a regular visitor of Belgrade.
Yes.
And you came to Belgrade first time, I think, a few years ago. How that came, and how do you feel it here? And what did you meet also very much of young people, and and teaching them, and also business people.
Yeah, of course.
What are your experiences?
So I came here, I think I came to Belgrade maybe 4 or 5 times altogether, always to teach at SM, at the School of Management. This is something that came along during COVID. During COVID, the school wanted to start, so I started very happily working with them, and it's been a great experience ever since. And the first time, I think I mentioned to you before, I mentioned to people when I talk about this, the first time before coming to Belgrade, I have my own expectations about coming here, and then you arrive here and you find I really changed 180 degrees, right? What is my view about this place? I always had a good time. I always have a very intimate relation with people around here. You guys are warm we have in Sicily. I'm from Sicily, and you have a beautiful place, and you have very smart and prepared people, right? Very smart and prepared people. And I basically teach to people that between maybe 25 years old to maybe 45. So I really have a large set of group of people, and we have people that really wants to change things, serious, and it's been a pleasure. It truly has been a pleasure being here.
Thank you very much. And but I have to ask you at the end, you are from Sicily. We talked about Belgrade, in the temperament not so different from each other.
Yes.
But you live in Lausanne. How do you explain
What's
that?
up with that? I have to be honest, Switzerland has been very generous with me. I have a fantastic job at IMD, and where I can do something that is not easy to be done in many other universities, right? In many other academic settings. I can do things at IMD I cannot do somewhere else. Of course, Switzerland is a little bit more formal and more well-organized. That I like that to be. But it's a good life, and the good thing is, like, every now and then I happen to to take the flight. I go back to Italy
and come to Belgrade,
and I come to Belgrade. Voila, this is exactly what this is about. Yes.
Thank you very much, and hope to have you as much as possible often here in Belgrade with us, and talking with people, with entrepreneurs, with business people, with from all the generations, because what you have to teach them is one of the most important things. It is how to live uncertainty, or how to live new normal. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much, Mark.
Jednog od autora ove knjige koju želim da vam večeras predstavim. Andrewa McAfee upoznao sam pre više od godinu dana na web summitu u Lisabonu. On je jedan od vodećih ljudi MIT-a i ovo mu nije poslednja knjiga. Ovu knjigu napisao je mnogo pre nego što je došla ova najnovija tehnološka revolucija vođena veštačkom inteligencijom, ali knjiga Leading Digital ili digitalno vođstvo jeste već postala klasik i zaista je važna kada govorimo kako da tehnologiju transformišemo u uspešan posao. Knjiga pre svega naglašava važnost lidera koji razumeju i aktivno promovišu digitalne inicijative. Bez tog liderstva čak i najnaprednije tehnologije neće dati željene rezultate i ova knjiga jeste upravo vodič kroz takvu transformaciju. Transformaciju poslovnih procesa, transformaciju uvođenja kulture, inovacija i promene u svaku organizaciju. Da li vodite tim, da li ste rukovodilac, da li imate svoju kompaniju, zaista je dobro pročitati ovu knjigu jer upravo jeste razumevanje tehnologije i integrisanje tehnologija u biznis strategiju. Ona vam pruža alate za stvaranje kompanije koja ne samo da prati promene, već ih aktivno koristi za ostvarivanje konkurentne prednosti. Dakle, u vremenu u kome živimo, jako, kažem, napisana nekoliko godina pre veštačke inteligencije, dakle, pre svega pre sadašnje revolucije, tehnološke revolucije vođenja i predvođenja veštačkom inteligencijom, ova knjiga daje jasan prikaz i jasan vodič kroz to kako da svoje organizacije, svoje timove vodimo kroz promene. Ako želite da vaša kompanija ili vaš tim zaista bude spreman za bilo koju i sadašnju i buduću digitalnu transformaciju, ova knjiga je zaista važno delo. A do sledeće nedelje, ako ste mi tere doznali.